It's not an overstatement to say that semiconductors power the modern world. They're not only a key component of nearly every electronic device we buy and use, they also power the factories that make the electronic devices we buy and use. They power our laptops, our cell phones, our cars, our washing machines, our refrigerators, yeah, even our refrigerators. And this is just the stuff in our home. We're not even getting into all the ways semiconductors are important to the military and to the power grid.
If software is eating the world, then the chips are the teeth.
And now there aren't enough of them getting made, a massive global shortage. And it's getting so bad that General Motors, one of the world's largest automakers, said it could lose up to $2 billion because the semiconductor chip shortage forced it to temporarily shut down some auto manufacturing plants. President Joe Biden just ordered economic and national security experts to look for gaps in the semiconductor supply chain in the United States. They want to see how reliant the US has become on other countries to manufacture semiconductors. Here's how the global chip shortage got so bad and what's being done to fix it. So what are semiconductors?
It's silicon with transistors built into it. And these circuits are put into basically any product these days that needs power. Generally, every single electronic product these days has these chips in them that allow them to do what they do.
When people talk about semiconductors now, they're talking about the advanced microchips that power smartphones, computers and cars, and advanced medical equipment, and the analog semiconductor devices that power radios and thermostats. The transistor, a kind of semiconductor, was first successfully demonstrated in 1947 at Bell Labs in New Jersey. Its inventors won the Nobel Prize for Physics, created the first tech companies in Silicon Valley, and basically laid the foundation for the modern digital world. After the transistor came the integrated circuit, the microprocessor, etc., until the super small, super advanced chips we have today. Now, the semiconductor industry is massive. Within the industry, there are semiconductor companies that design the chips, called fabless companies, and there are companies that manufacture them, called foundries. There are also integrated device manufacturers, like Intel, that both design and manufacture chips. More and more, though, major semiconductor companies are adopting the fabless model and contracting out orders to foundries like Taiwan Semiconductor or Samsung. And that trend toward fabless has helped complicate the chip shortage we've all been hearing about. The US chip industry has captured 47% of the global market share in sales, but only 12% in chip manufacturing, according to the Semiconductor Industry Association. So how did this all start? Well, COVID-19. The coronavirus pandemic forced people to work from home, to go to school from home, to just basically do everything from home. People upgraded their computers, they got smart speakers, tricked out their home theaters, and played a lot of video games. Businesses scrambled to set up remote work systems and needed more cloud infrastructure.
So what became very clear is that electronics companies, there was a supply chain disruption. But once that kind of started working its way through in the summer and China started getting back to work, electronics companies knew that they needed to increase production by a lot.
There's no sign that the demand is slowing for semiconductors. Global semiconductor sales totaled $439 billion in 2020, and that's an increase of 6.5% compared to the 2019 total of $412.3 billion, according to the Semiconductor Industry Association. Global sales for the month of December 2020 were $39.2 billion, an increase of 8.3% compared to the December 2019 total. Another big reason for the shortage? Cars are getting more advanced, and they need more semiconductors. In fact, right now, it's the auto industry that's feeling the squeeze in computer chips most acutely. Cars not only need advanced chips to run increasingly complicated in-vehicle computer systems, they also need older, less advanced semiconductors for things like power steering.
The auto shortages are happening because the auto OEMs canceled all their orders in the midst of COVID last year, and it just takes the supply chains a while to adjust. We've had some whipsaws. So that would be happening anyways. It's not really the semi guys' fault, it's the auto supply chain. But to the extent that the shortages themselves are sort of focusing attention and jump-starting the debate on what we should be doing in terms of semiconductor manufacturing in the US, I think that actually is where the discussion can be useful.
Analysts expect the chip shortage to persist well into 2021.
we are in a real difficult situation. Of course, we've heard from the likes of AMD's like Lisa Su and others about the expectation of this lasting about 6 months. So 100 days, if her interpretation is right, is going to put us nearly all the way out, well over halfway into that 6-month period. And I really do wonder, are we able to shorten this delay at all with any action that could be taken right now? I think the Biden administration really needs to focus on how do we not allow this to happen again?
Semiconductors have been so essential to nearly every single industry, the chip shortage has forced the White House to take steps to shore up the chip supply chain in the United States.
We need to stop playing catch-up after the supply chain crisis hit. We need to prevent the supply chain crisis from hitting in the first place. And in some cases, building resilience will mean increasing our production of certain types of elements here at home. In others, will mean working more closely with our trusted friends and partners, nations that share our values so that our supply chains can't be used against us as leverage.
The Biden administration is not going to lump everything together in one giant bundle and then negotiate that geopolitically with China. They're going to look at what's national security, what's economic security, and there's a close link between the two. Let's focus on what's more important, most important. You see the Biden administration doing it with the supply chain and with the semiconductor industry. And let's focus on how to address risk, how to have independent testing. But fundamentally, this administration is going to work multilaterally with our allies to try to figure out how do we work all these things together to make sure we're safer. And I'm heartened to see that the United States is going to not just block companies, they're going to make America more competitive in industries such as the semiconductor industry. And that's how we're going to maintain and grow our lead over China in terms of technology innovation.
At the semiconductor companies, executives say they'll be able to ramp up production to end the shortfall, but that likely won't happen until later in 2021. After the immediate shortages get resolved, the demand for semiconductors is only supposed to increase. New 5G telecom networks need smartphones with 5G-enabled chips. The so-called Internet of Things will put chips into more and more everyday devices. And the remote work brought on by COVID-19 appears here to stay. China is attempting to become self-sufficient when it comes to semiconductor chips. Right now, it imports most of its semiconductors.
You know, Beijing has always had big ambitions to have its own homegrown industry, but the U.S. restrictions not only on sales to China for chips, but also especially on telecoms giant Huawei, that has really acted as a stimulus for the industry. So Beijing has made chips a top priority for its next 5-year plan, which is going to be unveiled in March. Independence is one of 5, quote, fundamentals of China's economic development, and $1.4 trillion has been earmarked to develop the semiconductor industry by 2025, with a goal to have 70% of chips used in China, made in China.
I think COVID-19, a lot of people in the business world start to really look at our supply chains because of COVID-19. And it's no secret that the electronics manufacturing is kind of based in China, right? But what people kind of don't know is that the number one pure chip factory in the world is in Taiwan. That's TSMC. Now, Taiwan's an ally. Taiwan has not had the trade issues that China has, but it's still an island off the coast of China. So there was a lot of discussion early in the pandemic last year that we have to look at this stuff from a geopolitical standpoint, because, if the military can't make a jet because they don't have chips, and then Taiwan is caught in a geopolitical dispute, a lot of people just said, we need the ability to make leading node chips here in the United States.